telling a lot of stories about Lake Conway right now. That is
what's going on with Lake Conway?
Well,
that's next episode, but let's go ahead and get there now.
We pulled the plug on Lake Conway.
What does that mean?
We are draining the lake completely. It's 75 years old. The dam that creates the lake had outlived its life expectancy. And so we were going to have to replace the dam anyway. And so we're thinking, well, let's just hit reset on the lake. Lakes, when man-made lakes, I'm talking about here, everything from Ouachita and Hamilton and Greer's Ferry and Beaver, all those man-made lakes to smaller game and fish lakes. Conway's a large game and fish lake at almost 7,000 acres, but we've got them from 300 to 800, 1,500 acres. Lakes are great for the first 15 or 20 years, and then they start to lose fertility. All the trees that were there, that they decay, and that's not a bad thing. That puts nutrients into the system, but eventually all that stuff kind of goes away. There's no more nutrients to leach out of those trees that are in there.
You're talking about the trees that are at the bottom of the lake?
Yeah, or the ones that were left standing when the lake was flooded, or whatever, the vegetation. So we have been forced, and again, Conway's kind of a similar situation, but over the past 10 years, we've done a couple of major lake renovations, one at White Oak Lake in southern Arkansas, not far from Camden, and another one at Lake Poinsett up on the ridge near Harrisburg. And each of those projects, like, we had issues like the water control structures, and we had infrastructure we had to fix. But when we drain the lake, we go in and we do fish habitat work, and we put, pallets and old Christmas trees, or, plastic, like from road construction, the barrels, all those kind of things. We put them in the lake. And so when you reflood the lake, it's like you've got a brand new lake again. And so the fishing just explodes and it takes off. And so we're thinking, okay, we've got to replace the dam at Lake Conway. Let's just hit reset on this lake. It was built in the late 40s. 48. So 75 years ago. Conway was like, it was hardly anything.
It's Cowtown.
And now, it's a huge city.
It's college town.
Mayflower, and you've got Valonia, and you've got, so all that silt that used to kind of get trapped in the grass and the trees and things, now it runs over concrete. And so it much quicker it gets in the lake. So we've lost up to 40% of the volume of the lake over the last 75 years. And if there's places where the lake ought to be 5 feet deep, but it's 1.5 feet of water and 3.5 feet of silt and mud. And so 5 years, we're going to leave the lake drained.
For 5 years?
5 years.
What does the residents think about that?
Some of them, and I would say likely most of them, seem to understand. There are some, we had public meetings before we did this, and there's some people like, hey, I'm in my 70s. I bought a place on the lake to live out my golden years, and now you're going to drain it. And there's somebody's always going to lose out on an opportunity when you do something like this, but it's our job at the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission to manage those resources, not just for the next 5 years, but for the next 50 years.
So what's going to happen over the next 5 years? Trees are going to grow. I mean, the silt's not going to go away.
The silt will go away, believe it or not.
Where will it go?
It will compact. I mean, just the heat of the sun and not having water on it, that we're going to get soil compaction. And there's been a lot of studies done on this. But yes, that's why we have to leave it dry for 5 years, because those it's just loose silt now, but it's going to compact. You're going to get bushes, trees, and things like that grow up. We're going to do a lot of other stuff, infrastructure, boat ramps, replaced, repaired, made wider, parking areas. People who live around the lake can do a lot of stuff with their boathouses and docks while we're doing this down.
They can do some repair.
We're going to create bank fishing areas that are more user friendly, and we're going to, I think it's something like 3,500 fish habitat structures we're going to put in the lake. It's like one for every 2 acres, basically. And
what's a habitat structure?
Well,
a Christmas tree?
That's one type. Yeah. You can use all kinds of different materials. You can use plastic materials.
Plastic?
But they'll last a long time, and they won't degrade. Like a Christmas tree is good for about a year, and then it's no good to a fish anymore, basically.
I know they like for us to put Christmas trees in the lakes and stuff, but it seems like that just makes more, what'd you say, silt and stuff on the bottom.
It can create some decomposition. And like, for instance, Central Arkansas Water does not like you to put any kind of tree material in Lake Maumelle, which is our drinking water supply. They only want you to use PVC type structures. So basically it's PVC. They look like trees that you're making out of PVCs where you crisscross them and anchor them with concrete and drop them in the lake.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They'd rather have PVC in our drinking water than a Christmas tree.
They would.
That makes sense.
Why?
Because you
Plastic in your water?
Well, slow rot can create a lot of weird things like bacteria and probably a lot of other weird microorganisms
as these nutrients enter the system during decomposition. It's more taxing on the water filtration system, whereas the PVC,
it's sterile.
I know what you think about it, but it's not. I mean, it takes thousands and thousands of years for it to break down, so it's not going to like leach chemicals into the water.
So when they're figuring out what they're going to do with these lakes, are we just learning as we go, as we may have manage all these man-made lakes over the last 75 years?
Yes. I mean, the short answer to your question, yes. Yeah. I mean, these lakes are built, and we just know that, like, especially like if you look at those big lakes like Greer's Ferry and Bull Shoals and Ouachita, I mean, when they were built in the 50s and 60s, the fishing was phenomenal. Well, it's, Game and Fish keeps tabs on the fish, obviously, every year and multiple times a year. And so, anglers tell you, we know that the fishing in those lakes isn't what it used to be, right? And so, as we've studied over the years, we figure out, well, number one, especially those big lakes in Arkansas, they're built on rocky soils. They weren't very fertile to begin with. I mean, that's why we grow all of our food over in the Delta, where we've got the rich Mississippi alluvial soils, and you don't see a lot of people growing cotton and soybeans in the Ouachitas and Ozarks because the soil, it's just not fertile. Yes. I mean, we kind of learn as we go.
So I got the most important question.
Okay.
Did you find any dead bodies?
Not yet, and we hope we don't.
How about cars?
There's still some water in the lake. I mean, we initiated the process September 1, and we only opened one gate because we didn't want to flood downstream, because you got about 7 miles of Palarm Creek from the dam down to where it hits the Arkansas River. We also have Bell Slough Wildlife Management Area there, and we don't want to put water on our forest when the trees, you can do that when they're dormant in the wintertime. That's how we get our flooded green timber duck hunting in Arkansas. So we were very slow to let the water out. Now, November 15th, a couple of weeks ago, we opened up all the rest of the operational gates. And so it's really coming out of there now because it doesn't matter if it gets on those trees at this point. But there's still some water in the lake. It will probably be next spring before we really spend a lot of time down in the lake bed, like working on the fish habitat structures.
And you find dead bodies? Oh, we got to send an investigative reporter out there.
We had Brady Mountain, what's his name? The guy who owns Brady Mountain.
Bill
Barnes.
Bill Barnes,
yeah. Talking about all the old towns and stuff that are under Lake Ouachita. Is Lake Conway like that?
Nah, it was always kind of...
It's shallow.
It's a very shallow lake.
Yeah,
I mean, the average depth is about 5 feet. Yeah. So hopefully we don't run into any of those, like Lake Mead as it got dry out west, and, all the mobsters in Vegas that were finding people in cans and things like that out there.
I like that
No. That makes my job harder. I have to go talk to the media about that.
Oh, that's your job.
If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the picture in the center of the screen. For more of Kerry's interviews, click either video on the right of the screen. And as always, thank you for watching.